Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brandon with the Hefé Media podcast, where we sit down with game changers in their respective industries. Today, I'm sitting down with a real game changer. She goes by the name of Chats with Yvonne. Yvonne Armenta is a really brave woman. She chose a profession that most people dread, fear, and run away from. I'm talking about public speaking. According to many reports online, about 75% of the world population fears public speaking. So, in today's episode, we're going to learn how public speaking can become an asset in your personal life and not most importantly, but your business life as well. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you my guest, Yvonne Armenta. How are you?
Hi, hola everybody. I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm also excited that you know that fact about public speaking, because it is probably the number one fear for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's something that I think all of us in this office needs help with, for sure. Like, it's a fear that most people run away from. I know that's something that I've had a challenge with. Thankfully, I got to take some public speaking classes in college, but still, even to this day, I think nerves is good though, because I think it reminds you that you care, right?
100%. I think most of the time our fear comes from fear of judgment, whether that be, am I going to say this word incorrectly? Are people going to laugh at it? Are they going to agree with me, disagree with me? So once we get over that, we can lean into the art a little bit more. And that's sort of what I do in my line of work, is try to get people to engage with the art of public speaking, because it can be so beneficial in your business, in your personal lives, and in your personal relationships as well.
For sure. So, curious about, who you are, where you come from, and kind of how you got to this point. Can you share a little bit?
Yes.
For people that don't know you yet.
Yeah, I am from the Bay Area, so San Francisco, California, born and raised. My mom is from Mexico, Guanajuato, and I went to school in the city. And the way that I started my public speaking journey, I've been speaking for almost 10 years now. And part of my framework is I tell people you have to reflect, you have to connect, and then we share. And we can go into that in a little bit. But when I think about it, my public speaking journey really started back in elementary, right? For some reason, I've always been an introvert. I'm actually very reserved.
I think I saw that on your Instagram profile or somewhere.
People.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or your website or something. I don't know. I was looking.
It shocks people when I tell them that I'm actually an introvert, and it takes a lot for me to be up in front of people, even one-on-one conversations.
Okay.
Take a lot, right? But I learned that when I was on stage, it felt like it was the one moment where there were expectations, but there were zero expectations of me as a person. Like, I could be whoever I wanted to be when I was on that stage.
For sure.
And I realized, this is something that I want to continue feeling. And I learned in my process through doing so. The way that I got into public speaking was actually, and when I say public speaking, I mean actually on the stage in front of people. In high school, I was doing presentations constantly for my work. It was a project-based learning in high school, and for those of you not familiar with project-based learning, it's essentially a little bit more immersive than your typical take a test, memorize this, regurgitating knowledge. It was a way to showcase that you actually knew what you were talking about through the spoken word. So we did that in my high school and practiced that a lot. And my presentation in particular was featured on the teaching channel. And from that came an opportunity to be a keynote speaker at my first ever conference of 1,500 people.
Wow.
From there, it was, okay, now let's go and can you speak at this next conference? And so that is how I started developing myself as a speaker. I tell people I didn't go through a certification of any kind. I didn't go to a school of public speaking. I don't even know if that exists, but I know that courses
I think
exist
the Dale Carnegie, I heard Warren Buffett talk about that was one of his greatest investments was to invest in a public speaking course. I think it's Dale Carnegie, right?
Yes. And now I go to Toastmasters. Like, Toastmasters is a club. You can find your club locally anywhere, really, and you practice your public speaking. But I really enjoyed the way that I came into the industry, which was, let me learn by doing. Let me actually go into it and experience all the feelings of, what am I doing? I don't know what to do.
That's the best way, right? That's the best way to learn, right?
No, it really was. It really was. I went on YouTube. I went on Google. I was doing my own research. And through that, I found, okay, there's no one that I see on stage that I feel is like me, that
Yeah.
leads with the fact that they're an introvert. No one ever really talks about that, right?
Yeah.
Or that just looks like me, sounds like me, has similar lived experiences. And so I thought, okay, this is a space where I can create something different for myself that works for me.
For sure.
And now I'm able to do that and help other people do that too in their public speaking journeys.
Wow, no, that's incredible. I mean, how you just started by doing, like, this is something that you're like, hey, I see that there's an opportunity for me here, that I'm good at this. There's a window there for me, and you, like, you know, you're actively pursuing it, and I congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
You told me you came from all the way from San Diego. I was surprised because I thought you were like living in Koreatown. We're in, just to give context, we're in downtown Downey right now. But I thought Yvonne was coming from like Koreatown. I think I saw like one of your videos posted, like you were on your balcony or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's Koreatown.
Listen, public speaking is the one profession that brings you everywhere in the world, I feel like.
Wow.
You know, you travel for public speaking. In particular, yes, I'm from San Diego. I moved there maybe 2 years ago. So, I won't say I'm from San Diego. I live in San Diego.
Yeah, you live in San Diego.
I love it. It's not too far from LA, and I feel like I'm here all the time. All the cool stuff happens here in LA.
In LA? Really?
Yeah.
You think? Yeah, I mean, I think there's, you know, good things everywhere you go. You know, you mentioned that you're from, I forget,
Guanajuato. So in Mexico, my mom is from there.
Where's
Yeah.
that? Where's that?
I think it's like central Mexico. It's maybe
According
4
to
hours.
like, I was watching some like YouTube thing. This is a kind of off topic, but
Yeah.
like 90% of the, or 80% of the population in Mexico lives like centrally, like where Guadalajara and all the, like those cities.
Honestly, everywhere I go, I find someone that's from Guanajuato, and they're like, "What? Where are you from?" And my
Okay.
mom's from a really small town, and even then, I'll find a lot of people that are from that town. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Where are y'all coming from?"
We were in Guadalajara. We went to Tapalpa, it's a small town in Mexico, and we went to Tlaquepaque. And it was really nice there. I really liked it there. It was like a little...
There's so much to explore in Mexico.
Yeah, it was. We were there like in May, so it was really cool. I was there practicing my Spanish, you know. I feel like I was like fluent by the time I came back, and then now I'm like kind of like losing it again. I'm like, I want to go to another Latin American country to kind of get it going again.
Yeah, well, it's because you learned by doing, right?
Yeah,
You're actually
yeah, it's
immersed
true.
in the
It's true.
in the experience of
It's
learning, so it makes it even more impactful.
Yeah, no, seriously. The people that picked us up, they're like 2 Latin guys, and like when they were speaking Spanish, I was like, nah, that doesn't sound like Spanish. That sounds like gringo Spanish. And like they're like, you know, they're from, I'm assuming they're like Mexican.
Yeah.
But just to like when you're immersed in it, like it's a different level. But anyways, so I kind of want to learn a little bit more about like your process in public speaking, like what kind of gets you in the mindset of delivering your message to, you know, the different audiences. Like what goes into your mind when you're hitting the stage?
So to answer this question, I'll tap into a little bit of my framework that I developed by doing, right? By learning public speaking through doing, and that is reflect, connect, share. So I take it by those 3 pieces. In the reflect piece, you ask yourself, how do I feel about public speaking? What emotions come up when I'm thinking about me being on stage? Because those are really important to tap into in developing and crafting your speech. Like before you even think about what do I want to say to people, you have to think about what do I feel about this topic, no matter what industry you're in. And so when I'm going up on stage, I think in that reflection piece, okay, what is my lived experience in this? Why am I the expert at this? What knowledge can I bring to this that's new to people or a different perspective?
Okay.
I answer those questions there. Then in my connect piece is really where I start to think about my audience, the logistics of, okay, am I speaking virtually? Am I speaking on an actual stage? Is it a workshop? Which workshops are some of my favorite forms of public speaking because you really get to engage with people. And then in the share piece, I start to think about, okay, what am I actually trying to say?
For sure.
There's so many things going on in the world, so many different opinions that I could have or lens that I could approach this in. What is my exact theme? What am I actually trying to say? And then I develop all of my course and outline through that, using my visuals to make sure that it emphasizes what I'm saying and gives me some cues while I'm on stage too.
Yeah, no, so based off what you're just telling me, like a couple triggers went in my mind, and I'm trying to like, so one thing is like, what's your like demographic, or who do you cater to mainly, like when you're doing public speaking, or what is your I think I kind of asked this question already, but like, what is the message that you bring across when you're like typically giving like speeches? Is it usually generalized? Is it catered to like the audience that you're coming to? Is it like pro business? Is it more like, you know, XYZ issues?
It is very catered to my audience, which is the way that public speaking should be, right?
But
the different types of speaking that I do depend on what they're asking me for. So, for example, when I am working with executives, I have worked with executives at a tech company to get them ready for their annual presentations. Those are very much, hey, these are the skill sets, right? They don't necessarily need to engage as much in the reflection of who they are as speakers because they have a little bit of expertise in that already. It's just about helping them craft their actual message. So my public speaking with them will be about how do I craft my message? I do a lot of presentations and workshops for college students, right? And that is more geared towards confidence in the art of public speaking and actually leaning into it.
This is you said the college aspect of it?
Yeah, the college level.
So just to, I don't mean to interrupt you, but so from the like business standpoint, you're more of like a technical producer. You focus on like the technical aspect of public speaking, and then when you get into like the college aspect of it, is more of like the foundation.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of what I do is it depends. Do you need a foundational knowledge of public speaking, of the art itself? Do you have a message that you already crafted yourself that I can help you bring to life? And apart from that, as a public speaker, a lot of the conferences that I speak at are more education based and have to do with using public speaking and leveraging that as a tool for measuring success of a student.
Okay. Huh. Interesting. And so what is your process, I guess, more or less, when you're like going in, just so like maybe someone that's watching that's curious, like what works for you, like maybe not to like give all the answers, but like maybe like a 1-2 summarize, like what is your process when you're preparing for this presentation, either working with a company as a consultant or delivering a message as a speaker? Like what's kind of like your breakdown? What works for you?
I need to understand what the goal is. That's the way that I operate, because then I can develop a process for doing that. I am so big on anything that I do, delivering on what I promise. I don't want to just leave you inspired and motivated. I want to leave you with like tangible things to take and go and practice, put into practice. So a lot of what I do, for example, when I'm meeting one-on-one with people, will be, okay, what is your goal? Do you just simply want to get better at public speaking? Do you want to speak in front of a crowd of 5,000 people? Are you just looking to maybe start a podcast or start your content creation journey? Are you maybe an entrepreneur and you need to pitch your business to funders, right? What is it that you actually want to do? And then what I tell people is create an outline. And I'm not talking about a detailed outline, because you know the content. You're an expert. You don't need to write every single thing down that you're going to say. Just give me a 1 sentence up at the top of what you're actually saying. Bullet point your 3 to 5 examples, depending on how much time you have. And then at the end, if no one else listens to what you said, what do you want to leave them with?
Yeah.
It's a simple outline, really.
Yeah, kind of, I guess, similar to the outline that I sent you for this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be a little prepared, right? Like, it sounds like they say competence comes from competence, right?
Yes, and I tell people, don't overthink it either. I have definitely, at the beginning of my journey, I used to over-practice, overdo it. And then when I went on stage, I actually wasn't as confident because I was more worried about reciting what I had memorized or what I had practiced for.
Okay.
And at some point in your public speaking journey, whether you're a business owner, an educator, whatever it is, you have to realize you already have that knowledge. Yeah. You don't need to work hard for the knowledge. You just need to learn how to express it in a way that is best received by the audience. For sure.
I mean, there was a bunch of questions, rapid fire. I guess one of the questions is more of an analytical question. Okay, so would you say it's more analytical, or how would you categorize public speaking? Like 50% foundational, 50% technical, or how would you kind of ratio it up?
That's a good question. No one has really ever asked me that. I would say 10% of it. This is me
10% technical?
This is me just
technical?
making like claims, right?
Yeah.
No. I think 10% of it is the actual speaking, right?
Wait, what?
The 10% is the actual speaking, like once you're up there on stage, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like I think, let's say maybe 30 30% is probably the technical part, right? Because you learn by doing, you learn through practicing. And then the rest of it is really you as a person. Like you have to understand who you are, who you want to be on stage, and think about what style of public speaking best fits you. Because if you're looking to others for inspiration constantly, you're going to want to mimic who they are on stage, and it's not true to you, which makes all of the technical stuff that you learned kind of mean nothing because you're not implementing it in a way that will stick to you. I don't know if that answered your question. But.
No, for sure. I mean, I would think that it's more like what you said, you learn by doing. It's more flowy. If you get into the flow of things, then people are going to assume that you know what you're talking about, right?
And, I'll say this. We are natural communicators, right?
Yeah.
It's only, think about
body language, right?
Yes. Think about when you were a child. Yeah. Everything that you did was communicate. You asked why, you asked questions.
Yeah.
And then as we get older, all of these things start to become barriers in your existence as a public speaker. And you start to doubt yourself and your knowledge a little bit more because you're comparing it to everybody else's. So if we tap into that childlike mentality of, I know everything. And even if I don't know, I don't care. I'm going to go out there and do it.
Yeah.
You're right. People are attracted and will listen to you when they feel like you are confident.
And coming off authentically, right? Interesting. So kind of want to segue a little bit. I have more questions. They'll come back to me. But I kind of wanted to segue into public speaking for businesses and how like you tell me why it's important for businesses to invest in public speaking, or an entrepreneur or anybody in general, whether it be just investing in their personal life, like why public speaking is an asset into your life.
In my mind, it's a given, right? That public speaking is the one thing across industries that will make or break you, right? It gives you that promotion. It gives you your foot in the door. If you're an entrepreneur or at a startup and you are fundraising, everything comes down to how you pitch your business, right?
Sure.
So public speaking not only helps you develop yourself as a leader in this space, but it helps you craft a message that you can bring with you and cater to different audiences. So when I talk to people about, hey, you should invest in public speaking in your business, it's not because I don't think that you're already a great public speaker. It's because I understand that we have so much going on up here all of the time, and we have such enormous amounts of knowledge, and we want to share it with the world all the time. We think our businesses are the best thing to exist in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
But we have to figure out a way to communicate it efficiently, effectively, and concisely to someone that doesn't necessarily have an hour to listen to us, right? So public speaking allows you to clearly convey your message in a way that will get people to actually want to learn more. So you don't offer it all up in the beginning. You sort of
Would you say is there like a science to your method or to public speaking method in terms of like capturing an audience? Like, is it like, is it like, oh, you have 15 seconds to like stand out or
yes,
get the
I
message?
mean, I was looking up the attention span of people because it changes, right? It
TikTok.
used to be you at least got a good 15, 20 minutes from people, right? Let's say in an hour-long workshop, 15 to 20 is where they're really engaged with what you're saying. And now with TikTok and all that, I saw a stat the other day that said something like, in the first 8 seconds, people are already... and
they make a decision or what have you.
And this is probably more towards video format, right? If you are speaking to an audience, you're on stage, they know they're going to watch you speak, so it may be a little bit different. But I do always tell people, if you're going to memorize at all, memorize the very first thing that you're going to say and the very last thing that you're going to say, because it makes it impactful. So
Interesting.
will over practice, let's just call it that. I will practice the very first maybe 3 to 4 minutes of my speech because those are the most important.
Okay.
Those will allow people to decide, am I going to listen throughout the entire thing?
For sure.
Am I going to zone out? And then if you're able to do, again, the same thing at the very end, again, to the point that I made earlier, if they don't listen to anything else that you said throughout all those 15, 20 minutes, you can at least end with what you wanted them to capture from your audience.
No,
like the first 3 minutes are really important.
I'm like, I appreciate you so much because you're like, when you're talking to me, I'm like thinking of the things that I wrote in the notes, and I didn't want to I want to refrain from looking at the notes, but you're like giving me you're giving me the fuel. So I wanted to kind of, and what you're saying, the beginning and the end, like, for example, at the beginning of this podcast, I have an intro and then I have an outro, or not an outro, but I have an ending question I want to end the podcast with. Yeah. But to, I guess, segue into what you like triggered in my mind is like the video aspect of it. The video aspect, like how would you say like video production, or just filming yourself on camera, or maybe somebody, they don't have a coach yet in public speaking, how like that plays into your confidence and your competence and your technical aspects of public speaking? Like, what would you say? What's your perspective on that?
I'm so happy that you asked this question, because prior to me even being on social media, I mean, I've been on social media, but I mean, as a public speaker, I used to record myself, and I have these video diaries where I record myself talking just to see what I sound like.
I like your little microphone.
I know, I love my little tiny mic.
I think it's funny.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's been the best thing. I think it's so cute. I love little mini stuff. But yeah. I used to record myself to watch myself, just for my body language and how I was doing and where my tone changes. So I think it's really important to watch yourself on video.
Do you do like face exercises or anything like that? Have you heard of that? Or?
I've done I used to do theater when I was younger, in middle school. And we always had this one that was like, "How now, brown cow? How now?" And you emphasize different things, opening your mouth and enunciating certain words. Because when you're the only one on stage, imagine everybody's looking at you. You really have to be loud, not only with your voice if you don't have a mic, but with your body too. You want your body to express something. If people were to watch you on mute, what is your body communicating?
For sure.
And is it similar? Is it what you're trying to convey or not? But to your point about social media, one of the things that people struggle with the most in public speaking is the pause, right? A solution to, I blanked out when I'm on stage, I don't know what I'm about to say next, I'm speaking too quickly. A solution is to pause, but we all have problems doing that because we think the attention is on me, I need to speak. I need to fill in the blanks with words. And that's not the case. So one of the things that I think videoing, especially in social media, allows you to do is practice that pause.
For sure.
You can take a video on TikTok or Reels, whatever you're doing, pause, recollect your thoughts. You obviously can't hit the pause button on stage, but it gets you into the practice mode of,
for sure,
I can pause. I can take my time, recollect my thoughts, and then get back into it. And it's fine because, look, the end product, your video, is exactly what you wanted to convey.
Yeah.
And you only have like a minute and a half or whatever. Well, now I guess TikTok allows you 10 minutes, but...
Oh, does it?
You only have...
Oh, TikTok? I thought it was 3 minutes.
Well, TikTok allows you 3 minutes, but you can upload 10-minute videos.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I don't know who's watching 10-minute videos on TikTok, but I might.
Sometimes I'm like, it gets a little out of hand when I'm on TikTok. But at least it gives you the warning,
Exactly. So you have a limited amount of time. So the process of creating content or creating videos, specifically on social media, is very similar to public speaking. I'm not saying I'm an expert like content creator, but I'm saying the tactics that you use on social media, you can leverage and use in your public speaking.
Would you say it kind of fires different, the similar wiring in your brain when you're like practicing on camera, for example, or just maybe not even in camera, just talking out loud to yourself, rehearsing? Would you say it fires the same?
Of course, 1,000%. When I work with people one-on-one, I say to them, I meet people where they are. So if you are in a stage where you can't even talk to me or present to me one-on-one, I'll have you go and do a video journal first. Do something on your own first with no one in the room. But the pressures of knowing that someone's going to watch the video makes them just as nervous, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that the act of recording yourself, knowing that it's interesting because the reason you're nervous about it is because you know that there's a slight chance that someone may see this, that this is not going to stay within the walls of just you and your brain. That there's someone out there that'll see it. Back to my point of fear of some kind of judgment, fear of some kind of letting people in and allowing them to have an opinion on what you're about to say. But it's important.
Yeah. What would you say? Like, I guess this could apply to a lot of different subjects, but being detached from the outcome of either the public speaking or what have you. I feel like in many ways, public speaking is like selling. Because when you're selling, you're on the spot, right? And you just have to flow. And part of being detached from the outcome is like, hey, like, we can do business, or If
Like,
not,
it
that's
is what it
fine.
is.
That's
Yeah.
that's fine as well too. But I can provide XYZ. Your needs are XYZ, and then at the end of the day, it's up to the person if they decide to do business with you.
Yes, I actually sometimes, depending on who the person is, again, because I like to work with people and really individualize it to who they are as a person. But a lot of public speaking practices tells you focus on your audience, right? Your audience is everything.
For
who
sure.
you need to focus on. Everything that you do is catered to them. But what that does is that makes you probably, for some people, even more nervous, but it also kind of can detach you from yourself
Yeah,
on stage.
for sure.
And so what I tell people is that pre-presentation, you've already done everything that you need to do to keep your audience in mind. That's it. Don't worry about them. When you go on stage, detach yourself from the idea of even having an audience. I hate the imagine everybody in the room like naked, because that makes you even more nervous.
never heard of
like,
that.
why would you want that?
I think I never heard of that
people
one.
are like, oh, imagine everybody in the audience naked. It'll
That's
make
funny.
you feel better. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
I was editing a video, just a separate video, and they mentioned something about naked, and then they're like, "Oh, we take that part out," and I like deleted it. But it's funny that you, that you
Sorry,
mentioned
now
it.
you're gonna.
But
Have
I
to
never
delete,
heard of it.
You're
Yeah.
gonna have to delete this part off now. Or hey, don't look at your audience. Look straight ahead to something up at the top, like a clock that usually is at the top of a room. That's a bad one too, because again, you're detaching yourself from the actual experience, but not tuning into yourself.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I tell people, detach yourself from the audience when you're on stage and focus on yourself. And a lot of that may be because I'm an introvert, and so it helps me to imagine that there's no one else matters right now except for me.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. I didn't want to say it, and I'm glad that it came from your mouth. But a great mentor of mine, he does public speaking, and he talked about it being about the audience, right? Like that's like one of the main things when you're like sharing a message, for it to be about them and nothing, like basically nothing about you.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think more successful.
Your content, right?
Yeah.
The things that you're saying are geared towards your audience. And again, you've done all the preparation to make sure that they are at the center of who's going to be impacted by your message. So, I'm glad that you said that, because one of the things that I do in the first 3 minutes of my presentations, for example, is a lot of people will lead with an introduction of themselves. And I like to just go right into it, because I don't believe that anyone really cares that much about me as like, this is what I do. This is how many years I've been doing this, right?
Yeah.
They want to hear what I have to say. And then after those 3 minutes where I introduce to you my thoughts and my perspective, I'll go into, this is why I'm an expert at this, and why I'm good to be talking to this topic about. But yeah, to your point, it is always about the audience. And I think that's what's interesting about the way that I have approached public speaking, is I want to cater to those people that may not necessarily want to focus on their audience, but still have a really good message to talk through.
Yeah, no, I think I'm not trying to go off subject, but I think it caters to like a lot of different things. Like when it's about the subject and less about you, that's what it's really about, right? Whether it be selling or public speaking or whatever it is, like copywriting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's what I was actually thinking. Copywriting, when you get into the frame of the consumer, that's what it's really about.
Yeah.
That's how you have the most impact, I feel.
And we all love talking about ourselves. I've learned this. Like in my work with folks, as soon as they get over those nerves that they have around talking, everybody wants to talk about themselves and their story, which is beautiful, right? But we have to work to craft it around a narrative that more people can connect to, so that you can bring them into what you're actually saying.
For sure, for sure. I guess one of my next questions would be like, how have you seen public speaking, like specifically like one of your clients, like evolve through your coaching or your consulting or just public speaking in general? Like how have you seen public speaking be an asset in someone's life?
Well, I had one person that I worked with that came to me and said, I do not like public speaking at all. And she was really nervous to even speak to me in some cases.
Really?
And I was like, okay, a barrier to entry, right? Like I have to make you comfortable with me first, because yes, I am a stranger to you right now. So I want to get you comfortable with me first. And
For sure.
I work a lot with people on the relationship building first. I think it's really
Okay.
important.
Yeah, for sure.
Something we don't always take the time to do.
For sure.
I had her do an initial presentation that was just about herself.
Cool.
It didn't require her to do any research, nothing. Just about, I wanted to make it as simple.
You wanted to
as
get the
possible.
raw content so you can like
Yes.
see where she's starting at.
Yeah, and I also do add still a little bit of a challenge in that I make it timed. So you can only spend 20 seconds on this slide because I
Okay.
don't want to hear your entire life story, but I want to get bits and pieces because it helps me understand what you consider to be really important to you. And so then we tap
Yeah.
into those a little bit more. And those evolve over time. And we worked together over the course of 3 months with, I think, later sessions afterwards because I still wanted to keep up with her and see how she was doing. But she was in the financial world, in the finance world, and she was leading teams, but she wasn't always able to present in front of her team. And so when you are a team lead, it's really important that they see you as a leader.
For sure.
That you're able to facilitate conversation. So a lot of our work was geared towards her professional life, right? Her professional world. And after we were done, she told me about a presentation that we workshopped together. So we were workshopping this presentation from month 2 up until 3.5 months. And she presented it and she felt the best she's ever felt about public speaking. And she said she got a lot of really positive feedback. And it made me feel
Yeah.
really good because I remember she told me she couldn't even facilitate a 30-minute team meeting with her people.
For
right?
sure.
And so through that, after she had that presentation, she also decided, hey, I kind of want to leave this. I'm going to leave this job anyway.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't want to be in this world anymore.
Yeah.
But it gave her not only the confidence in the spoken word and actually going up there and delivering a message,
For sure.
but also even the confidence in her personal life to say, hey, okay, it's not that I'm not good at this. I just maybe didn't feel as confident as I needed to. Now I feel confident. Let me go and find something that actually aligns with what I want to be doing. So public speaking is transformational, not only to you as a professional, but to you as a person too. It permeates every single part of your life, I think.
Interesting. So for those of you that are interested or curious about like the services that you provide, how do you kind of like work with people? Is it session based? Is it campaign based? Is it like how do you work?
So it's a little bit of team and individual based. So I work with teams. If you are a company and you're looking to have your team go through a public speaking workshop, right? Or even a series of workshops. I've done a lot of those, and those are always my favorite. I love doing the one-on-one, the workshops with teams. On an individual basis, those are, hey, let's meet one-on-one and decide how to do it. So I have single sessions, but I also have more longer-term public speaking sessions if folks are looking for that. It's all on chatswithyvonne.com. You can check those out. I love the workshops that I'm able to give to college students, right? Organizations reach out to me for workshops on public speaking, and we approach it from very different lenses. So I always say I could talk about public speaking for days, so you have to give me my limit. Like, tell me what you need, what your goal is.
Okay, yeah.
And I will meet you
Because you're
there.
passionate about it, and it's like not to talk about myself, but like what I do, like you would do it for quote unquote free. Obviously, you're not going to do it for free, but you love what you do, and when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, and there's so much to it, right? When I talk about public speaking, I could talk about your body. Hey, let's talk about the voice, the actual sound of your voice, what your voice should be doing when you're on stage, how you're moving. Hey, even cultural communications. A lot of ways that we think about public speaking, we think you should be this way, move your hands this way, but they're different people in this world. They all have different styles of communication.
Yeah.
That's why we have to work to meet you where you are and
For sure.
understand who you want to be as a public speaker.
What do you think about as far as like language, maybe Spanish, public speaking? I hear that language is like psychology of a certain group of people. Like, what's your perspective on different languages and public speaking? What do you have to share with that?
It's so funny that you say that because I recently listened to, I think it was a podcast episode. So I have 2 podcasts.
I probably watched it too.
One of the podcasts is an affirmations podcast,
Okay.
and I translate affirmations in English to Spanish, right? And so I was
awesome.
listening to myself. I'm like, I like the sound of my voice better in Spanish.
Oh, really?
I'm like, it sounds more. I don't know. I'm like, it sounds softer. It sounds
Well,
just like a song. I don't know. It's
I hear
beautiful.
that Spanish is like a romantic language. That's what I hear. And then English is more like,
Yeah, and someone shared an article with me that talked about your cultural ties to it, right? Because my mom speaks Spanish, my entire family speaks Spanish, and I grew up speaking Spanish, so it feels more attached to home, right? Versus when I'm speaking English, it's still very much me, but it was my second language, and so it feels a lot more like Spanish. Sometimes can feel a little bit more like it's me, like it's Yvonne. I'm not thinking about how I sound. Where in English, I'm like, did I pronounce that word correctly? And so I think when my mom, for example, or there have been a couple people that I've worked with before that their confidence level is like 100% when they're public speaking in Spanish.
Oh, really?
But when they have to public speak in English or vice versa, that's where the fear of messing up comes in, where the nervousness comes in. So
there's more reinforcement of like being judged and what have you.
1,000%.
And vice versa.
Yes, exactly. And so a lot of that is doing more so inner work and understanding it is what it is. You speak the way that you speak. That is what you're going to show up as, and you have to be confident in that. And if you make up one or two words while you're on stage, that's fine. We're all good at, humans are good at context clues. We can figure out what you're saying, right? If that does happen. But also shifting the narrative and understanding, like, the way that you communicate is very much your own. And when you get up on stage, you're there because they asked you to be there. Because you're an expert at what you're talking about.
For sure. And I think I asked you this already as far as like your techniques going into like public speaking or public speaking in general. Is there like a couple techniques that you do to get prepared?
Yeah, breathing is really important to me. I know it sounds real basic. A lot of these things sound real basic, but we don't do them enough, right? Like when you're going up on stage, you don't breathe. You're holding your breath. I mean, you are breathing because otherwise you would pass out, but you're holding your breath a lot.
And like shallow breaths, right?
Yes. You're not taking these deep, conscientious breaths. And so it's really important. Something that I do is box breathing. So you inhale for 5 seconds, you hold for 5 seconds, you exhale for 5 seconds, and then just keep repeating that until you start to just focus on the breath. Only that.
For sure.
Another thing that I do is I do something completely unrelated to what I'm about to go talk about, like 10 minutes before doing it, especially with the virtual world.
Some push-ups? You do push-ups?
Right? No, I'm a sweater. I'll start sweating if I do that. I'll go up on stage all sweaty. But like things like listening to a song that I love. Or
Dua Lipa or what? No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh. No. What song did I listen to the other day?
House music, like Spanish music.
You know what's so annoying these days is when I hit shuffle, it's like all the TikTok songs. And I'm like, no, I heard this on TikTok. It's making me want to go scroll on TikTok now.
I know, right? It's like a trigger.
Yeah. But doing something that is not related to what you're about to go do on stage takes your mind away from that. And then one last one that I want to mention is I was listening to a podcast once, and they talked about the performance factor, right? So public speaking is like performance. And the example they were using was basketball. It was, when you are practicing on the court, you make all the basketball players make all their free throws, right? They're not missing them when they're practicing. It's only when they actually go to the game, get the pressure of the audience watching them, the pressure of actually needing to win and needing to succeed, that they miss a free throw. Whereas they have the skill for it. They do it every single day, but it's the added things around them and in their environment that mess them up. Similar to public speaking, you engage in the art every single day, whether you believe it or not, right? And it's only when the center of attention is you,
the spotlight,
and there's people around, and you start to overthink it, that you underperform. So something that I tell people I think is helpful is to perform and practice your public speaking as if you were putting yourself in a similar environment than you would be if you were on stage. Obviously, you're not going to get 5,000 people to practice your presentation with, but choose not to practice it in front of your family member because you're not going to be presenting it in front of them. Choose to practice maybe in front of strangers instead, because that gets you into the mindset of presenting in front of strangers.
What would you say to go like literally like to the beach or somewhere where like, say for example, I'm assuming you've been to like Santa Monica, like literally where, on the promenade where people are playing like the guitars and performers, like going right there and doing your act right there, and like, I don't know, maybe that can help.
I mean, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but you have to mimic the
environment.
level of, you have to mimic that uncomfortability and like, oh, this is weird, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because that is going to be like, well, if I can dance or I can perform at Santa Monica in front of all these people that don't even know me and I know they're judging, then I can do it in front of the people that are actually signed up to listen to me speak. For
sure. That's amazing that you were able to share that, and I appreciate it. Kind of want to ask another question before we wrap up the podcast. As far as like inspiration, where do you find inspiration?
It's interesting. When folks ask me questions about inspiration, I feel like I'm expected to have a person in mind, right? But I always think about a collective. Like, I find inspiration in random people, random strangers all the time. And what I love about people and what inspires me about them is the passion that they have for what they do.
Okay.
I love seeing people trying. I love seeing people dedicated to that one thing that they really like and leaning into it a lot, all the time.
Awesome.
I love it. And that inspires me because I think it's so easy to let go of the things that you really like and are inspired by and that you're passionate for, because we have things like bills to pay and we have to be professionals and all this stuff. And it's so easy to let go of that I'm inspired every time that I see someone fulfilling one of their dreams, even if it's small or large, however big your dream is. People inspire me when they lean into what they love.
Interesting. That's awesome. Awesome. Is there anything you want to share with the audience, or any last thoughts or words that you want to share? That's amazing.
Look at the camera.
Yeah, I know. That's amazing that you shared that you like basically get inspired by life, and that's like.
Yeah, I don't.
What's your horoscope, by the way?
I'm a Cancer.
Cancer. When, so your birthday just passed, or?
No, it's July 18th.
18th?
Yeah.
I'm July 29.
No way.
Yeah.
So you're a Leo,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. One of my best friends, her birthday's the 28th.
28th?
Yeah. So I'm a Cancer, but I don't even know.
Water sign?
Yeah. I don't know about zodiacs, but like my sun and my moon or whatever are in Aries. Yeah. So a lot of people think.
Oh, Aries?
Yeah. A lot of people think because I'm a Cancer, I'm a crybaby and super emotional, which I can be, but I see it more as passion.
Yeah.
Like, I don't cry all the time at everything, but a lot of things do make me cry. Like, I'll see strangers on the street and I make up a story about their life in my mind and it ruins my day.
You're like maybe very intuitive and sensitive to perception, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, I feel a vibe.
For sure.
And
and most women are usually that way anyways, as it is, right?
I'm sure. I just I think that is also helpful in public speaking, right?
Sure.
And being in tune with those people that don't necessarily always have the confidence to go up on stage because they feel like they're not like everybody else in the room, or like they're not the loudest in the room. They're not, so I tap into that a lot. But yeah, I'm a Cancer.
I know I said when we're going to end this podcast, but I had another question. How do you stay focused on stage? Is there any time where like there's someone in the audience that like is kind of like throwing you off maybe a little bit, and you want to like kind of overcome that? Like, what is something that you kind of do, or how can you like go overcome that challenge?
As a public speaker like myself, when I'm on stage for myself, so I mentioned that I present to college students a lot, right? One of my sessions, I think 2 weeks ago, was to a group of high school students actually, and it was 4 p.m. So it's the end of their day. They've been at this conference all day. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to be funny, or I have to do something to make them interested. Yeah. This boy up at the front, he kind of like yawned, and yawning, it came because he's had a long day. It may not be it has nothing to do with me.
For sure.
So I have to detach myself from that, right? So I look at that and I focus my attention on someone else. But
for sure.
Something that I do when I'm on stage so that I don't get as nervous is I look at people because it's important for them to feel connected to me, but I don't see them. If that makes sense. I'm just glancing over you. I'm not making direct eye contact with people. And even if I am, it's almost like I have like
a veil. You don't get caught up in that whole moment. You're channeling whatever you need to channel. Yes. You're not like thinking about, this person or whatever.
And again, because I know my craft, I practiced it enough. I know that my pieces are engaging and that everything that I do on stage has everything to do with me, and the reaction to it has everything to do with, yes, my audience and how I engage them, but also what they have going on in their own lives. Like, people are people. People have things going on. Things are going to go wrong. The projector's going to turn off. And you just have to understand it is what it is.
People are going to be people.
People are going to be people.
For sure. So like I said from a few moments ago, is there anything you want to share? Anything you want anyone to know? Anything to share? This is your moment right now.
Oh my gosh.
This is gonna go on threads.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I know.
I want people to lean into the art of public speaking in whatever field you're in. Even if you think, I don't want to speak to 1,000 people on stage.
Okay.
I want you to lean into it, and I want you to find your why. Think about why public speaking. Is it because you want to get paid to public speak, right? Because this is very much a career. You could do this.
For sure.
Is it because you want to impact people? Are you selling something? Are you a business owner? Are you simply wanting to gain leadership skills? Really take every opportunity to public speak, big or small, it doesn't matter, because you won't get over your fear of public speaking until you actually go out there and do it often.
Awesome. Final question. Would you rather take a dinner with Jay-Z or $500,000?
Oh my God, that's so funny. $500,000.
$500,000?
Actually, you know what? This is an interesting one.
Dinner
Okay.
with Jay-Z or $500,000? Which one are you choosing?
Probably Jay-Z, actually, because I'll pick his brain a little bit, and he'll tell me how to make even more than that.
So you're gonna pick dinner with Jay-Z?
Yeah.
Final answer?
This is my answer, actually. I'm changing it.
Okay.
I'll take the money, and I'll go flip it and learn from other people. Because if I'm going to be, I don't really listen to Jay-Z. So that was a hard one.
No, that's
my
awesome.
answer.
That's awesome. But yeah, thank you for being here. This is Brandon with the Hefé Media podcast. Until next time, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.